Now, it is a scorcher today. We are outside and we are going to learn a little bit about vegetation today. And Jack is going to show us the ropes. What are we looking at, Jack?
So, Shankar, here we are at the site of Bunyip State Park where the 2019 fires burnt through.
Right.
The fires were about 60% of the total park area affected by fire, which is around 9,300 hectares or so, but it also burned about 5,000 or 6,000 hectares of private land as well, which had impacts on people's houses, on their fencing and the like. So where we are today is actually a site where you can see the impacts of the fires with some of these dead trees, and you can see this amazing regeneration occurring. But we need to give Mother Nature a bit of a hand. You can see this area here, which is basically pasture grass. Right. It was previously leased out for grazing, but has since come back into the state park, and we're looking at a project with Cannibal Creek Landcare Group and other volunteers to actually replant this environment. So a lot of work and effort gone into that, but we're at that stage now where we'll be having some more meetings after 12 or 18 months worth of work and actually get to the stage of doing a planting sometime in May.
Okay. Now, what does revegetation mean and what is involved?
So within Bunyip State Park, we really prefer just to look after the ecosystems and let them look after themselves. So for us, that means controlling pest animals, pest plants, and basically allowing the regeneration to occur naturally. Right. At a site that's so disturbed like this one, you need to intervene. And so we need to give Mother Nature a bit of a helping hand, and that's where volunteer groups and staff are really good at working together with contractors and rehabilitating sites.
Okay.
For us, that means, having a good plan in place, actually looking at what the needs are for this type of environment, because we're basically trying to recreate that bushland and bring it across closer to this property, to the park boundary. And so we'll be looking at the type of plants that we'd put in there that supplement that, trying to collect seed locally, then you have to grow it on, then you have to prepare the sites, and then eventually you get to that day where you're actually doing the plantings with the community groups, which is almost like a celebration of 12 to 18 months worth of work.
Right. Yeah. And how long can it take in order to restore the vegetation back to, I guess, a normal state?
Look, that can take years in some cases. I guess what we see immediately is within the first 2 or 3 years, we see an amazing amount of plant growth. We start to see the birds and other animals starting to come into the areas again. And then maybe over 5, 10, 15 years, you'll start to see more and more of that occurring. And hopefully it'll get to the stage where it is self-sustaining, perhaps in the next 15 to 20 years. It really depends too on what happens with this pasture grass and what replaces that. So if the vegetation doesn't outcompete the other weeds, then perhaps we've got to deal with problems like blackberries and other plants that grow amongst it.
Oh, there you go. Okay. And now I noticed that the lawn is shorter here, but longer here. What does that mean?
Well, for us, we've always got to be conscious about our activities and making sure that we're not adding any additional risk to the landscape. So this is actually a fire break along this private property here, and so we'll be maintaining a fire break alongside here, even though we're doing revegetation within the state park.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of planning going in place.
A lot of planning, a lot of discussions. I've got a meeting coming up very shortly with staff just to go through the mechanics of preparing for the planting day in May. Yeah, so, these things take 12 to 18 months.
Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Amazing, Jack. Now, we are going to be heading to Four Brothers Rocks, and we're going to learn a little bit more about a day in the life of a ranger. All right, guys, here we are at Four Brothers Rocks, and I am here with Jack at a new location. It's sort of got a little bit softer with the sun, which is a bit nice. And now Jack is going to give us a bit of a rundown in terms of what it actually looks like in a day in the life for a ranger.
Yeah, Shankar, a day in the life of a ranger can be really diverse. So depending on what park you're in, what sort of area you're managing, what your responsibilities are, will determine what you do for the day. And then, whatever you plan to do is something you might have to adjust because of something else happening. So look, today was a typical day. The teams all gathered first thing in the morning and had their safety talk and talked about what the priority activities were for the day and then who was going to be doing what. And then the teams either went out individually or in pairs or in larger groups to deal with the works. Some of the guys were off doing fire protection works, getting ready for planned burns. And other members of the team were going out checking the visitor sites after a busy weekend just to make sure the sites were open, safe and clean. There'll be times when people are spending a lot more time in the office actually planning out projects or, on the phone dealing with stakeholder issues or, working with community groups to look at programs for the future.
Wonderful.
Very diverse.
Very diverse.
Yep.
And you get views and backgrounds like this every day.
Well, you can do. For some people, it's just a screensaver on their computer.
Yeah.
But for most of the staff, you'll be out in the environment, which is just great. It's great for your body, for your healing. Also keeps you fit and healthy, and just provides inspiration. And even for myself, I get tied to the desk quite a lot,
Right.
on the phone or on the computer in Teams meetings and the like. But to actually have the opportunity make the opportunity to come out into the park you manage and actually be there in the environment is something that's really, really good for your mental health as well as your physical well-being. I did forget to mention, though, that often when you've got a day planned, you'll get that phone call that says there's a report that's required or there's an emergency in your park area. And so people will basically drop everything to respond to those incidents.
Okay.
Yep.
And when you are out and about, what are the types of things that you need to keep in mind when you are travelling from site to site?
Well, I guess the main thing is that our environment's very changeable. We only did the drive up here from, the previous site, and we weren't even into four-wheel drive country, and yet it felt like it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We were starting to go up bush tracks, and we were starting to get into areas where it was a little bit more remote.
Right.
Trees are getting taller, the wind's getting a little stronger. Should I be here or should I not? You've got other people using the park areas as well, and so there's a lot of movement of people back and forth, and also animal movement.
Yeah.
So, even today we had a couple of wallabies jump out in front of us, and so we had to slow down for them. There was that lace monitor down on Gembrook Tonnenbach Road that we kind of pulled up for and had a bit of a look at. So you've got to consider the environment, you've got to consider the weather, you've got to consider what other people or other animals are doing in the landscape. We often get surprised by what we see as well. So, when you are moving around in our parks, you occasionally come across activities which are illegal.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Someone will be removing firewood from a state park or a national park, or there'll be a trail bike rider in an area where they're not meant to be. And so they're not expecting you, you're not expecting them, and that can add a bit more conflict.
Okay.
Obviously, when we go to our visitor sites, it's about ensuring that we are not only aware of the environment that we're in, but also the group or the dynamics of the people that we're interacting with. And rangers by nature tend to be really friendly, outgoing and engaging. But we still have a role in compliance as well, where we need to have that tough conversation occasionally. And so it's about judging those situations and making sure you're not putting yourself at risk of somebody who suddenly goes from seemingly nice to starting to pull that knife out of their pocket or grab hold of the tomahawk and, have situations that escalate like that.
Okay. And you sort of mentioned it before. What are the types of personalities that you think would be suitable for a role like this?
Look, I hope that the ranger force actually reflects our society.
Yeah.
So really diverse ranges of ability and skills. Some people will be heavy extroverts, others will be so far introvert you wouldn't believe it. But I think we need everybody. I don't consider myself an extrovert by any means. I actually started as a very shy person, and so getting into parks for me was also a way of challenging myself and engaging with community and running interpretive programs and the like was a way of extending myself and taking me from that shy boy who started in the organisation a long time ago to somebody who felt confident talking to a larger group or even talking with people in your own group, your own teams. So I think diversity is something that we really celebrate in Parks Victoria, and something that me personally, I've seen how our organisation has changed in relation to this, how society has changed, but how we reflect society, and hopefully we'll reflect that even more in the future. So hopefully we'll have a diverse group of people working in Parks Victoria. There'll be more engagement with our First Nations people. There'll be more engagement with community, and we'll truly reflect what society is.
Wonderful.
And we'll be tolerant of everyone's views and opinions as well.
From a shy boy now on TV.
Thanks very much for that.
Now, guys, in the next segment, we are going to get Jack to teach us his top 3 tips.
G'day, Jack here at Bunyip State Park, Area Chief Ranger for this part of the world, and I'm standing on Bunurong country. I just want to give you my top 3 tips on how to become a ranger. Tip number 1, that's about education. It's about understanding where you are in your career pathway and determining whether or not you need to be going to university, whether you need to be doing additional courses to supplement any training you may have done previously. It might be that you've changed career completely, so you might be looking at what other life skills you actually need to become a ranger. Tip number 2. Tip number 2 really is about building those connections with the community. So it's about getting involved in peak groups such as the Victorian National Parks Association, the Field Naturalists Club, the Four-Wheel Drive Victoria, Bushwalking Victoria, those peak bodies that are actually involved in the landscape around Victoria and come at it from different perspectives. You might also want to join the local CFA so that you get some experience there in firefighting and other activities where we're providing emergency response. The next thing you want to do is actually participate in the activities that they conduct as well. So particularly with your community groups, your land care groups and your volunteer groups, get out there and get involved in tree planting and weeding and those other activities, which brings you into contact with other people who share similar values. Tip number 3 is around networking. And so you'll develop those networks within these peak bodies and groups that I've been talking about. But the other thing is to find out who's involved in park management in your area. So go and find the local park office and have a chat with the rangers there. Actually discuss with them what it's like to be a ranger and how they actually got to be there. You'd be surprised about some of their life journeys. They're my top 3 tips, and I hope you fulfil your career needs.